Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals about what I think the minimum equipment someone would need is to make nearly maximum gains in size and strength. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not following or subscribed, please do so, and if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you. Here's the thing. I think when I was back in the UK, obviously I spent 3 years there. I started my original YouTube when I was in the UK. I trained at home for a good chunk of that in a little shed outside. And I basically had like a half rack with a pull-up bar, several barbells, plates. I had another little rack I could slide outside. It was too tall to fit in the shed. Also had a pull-up bar. Had a few chains and stuff to throw over for doing weighted pull-ups and things. But I qualified for Worlds in powerlifting training there. Okay. I was a decently jacked guy. Obviously, old, late 30s at that point. And I built up to, you guys saw me right there after having retrained from nothing. Like I had to learn to walk again from being sick, lose 100 pounds. I built up to a 230 kilo squat, which again in pounds is 508. You guys saw me deadlift like 580 there, benching up in the 300s, able to do weighted pull-ups with just that equipment. Okay, that's all I had. And what's funny, even now this comes up, and this is great for clients. This is great for people following who want to train at home. Like this is the stuff that we have to think about in the world today. We went through a crisis a few years ago where gyms were closed. Like 80% of the gyms, if not more, were closed for at least a few weeks, if not longer, in most first world countries. People who didn't have home gyms didn't have an option. And then this was really a change in a lot of people's training styles. A lot of people were then forced to train at home. It's like, and if they had stuff, no one had anywhere near what they had at the gym. People realized, man, I can make gains without all this stuff. And ironically, look at all the stuff I have. And at this current phase in my life, I'm not really using it. Right? I use some of it here and there. But it's mostly barbells, weighted pull-ups, barbell exercises. I do a few dumbbell advanced stuff. I do a reverse hyper every now and then. Use my sled every now and then. I have a box to jump on. But realistically, what do you really need? Because I run for cardio. I go out and run every day. What do you really need? Here's what I'm going to say. A bench. An adjustable bench would be nice, but you don't need an adjustable bench unless you're going to do incline. I like incline, don't get me wrong. But you need a rack with a pull-up bar. You don't even need the fancy multi-grip one or any of that I have, or my fat bar that I have. You don't have to have any of that. I do like that fat bar though. There are times when I want to flip it back down and start using it just for the grip work. All right. But barbell and plates, it'd be nice if you have a platform set up where you can deadlift, but you could do it with just mats. Realistically, that's all most people need. Now, I still can't overhead press right now. I don't have the mobility. I'm working on restoring that. But really, like if a person really was just going to do minimalist stuff and still make phenomenal gains, man, I'd say you could live on squat, bench, deadlift, weighted pull-ups, and overhead pressing. Back, I would say clean and press. Even if it's clean and small push presses, I think that works. I think that works great. I used to do a lot of that. Back in the day. But again, people will talk about, well, what about road? Well, you use rows. But realistically, if you really are just trying to get as cog diesel and strong and explosive as possible, I'm going to opt even in the direction of cleaning it off the floor. Right? Clean and press. clean and push press. I think it works great, especially if someone was only going to do like 5 movements and push them. I think that would work phenomenally well. Right? Squat, the big 3, clean and press and weighted pull-ups. Everything's going to get worked. Everything's going to get worked. You know? Now, people say, well, what about arms? Okay, fine. You want to do some curls, do some curls. You got a barbell in there. The triceps are covered pretty well, though. Aren't they? Between different types of presses and then the pull-ups work the long head. I think you're covered. Now, am I saying other equipment won't help? I'm not saying some other equipment won't help. Other equipment can still be useful. But realistically, if you had access to that equipment, is there any muscle in the body that you couldn't build? Hey, get a plywood box to jump on. You know, but I think what people forget when you look at the different data on machines versus barbells and dumbbells, like no one is suggesting with any evidence whatsoever that machines or these smaller movements build more muscle. What the evidence shows is that they can build just as much muscle, so then therefore people will say, so we don't need all these big movements as much, since we can technically build with that. But what happens if you have the minimal stuff? You have the ability to build the exact same muscle. Let me be clear, there's nothing preventing you from maximizing muscle through your entire body with just barbells, body weight stuff, like that. You don't have to have it. Let's be clear, it's not necessary. You can build everything top to bottom with those movements. All right, and that's the point we're making. So here's the other thing we would come to. If that's all you had, you're going to be a lot stronger and more athletic, aren't you? Right? If you're having to do weighted pull-ups and squatting and deadlifting and clean and presses and stuff, you know, I'm not saying the bench is particularly athletic, but the others are. Right? You're going to be a lot fitter, more athletic. You're going to have a more capable body as a result of it. But that's really all the equipment you really need. Now, if you want to have a few bands or some adjustable dumbbells or a box to jump on and other stuff, I think those are great to add. I mean, I love the reverse hyper, but that's a bit much to ask anybody to have. But I think this has shown us, because we saw it even with lockdowns, there were people who made great gains still, just their little home gyms, who were normally gym people. And this is stuff people have to think about in a world where gyms can just be shut down like that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.